So one thing that I think I was sorely lacking in the Cersei, and I don't know the character's name. I can call her Lena Headey if you prefer that, but the something in that storyline that kind of disappointed me
Mm.
is that it feels like the resolution at the end doesn't like come from a place it within her character. It's almost like the moment where they determine that he's a traitor is almost by pure happenstance because she goes in to stab him and kill him, but there's something I miss, a shot that I miss, she doesn't know there's a gold pouch in there with coins.
Um, I feel like it's a very, because this is a
Oh.
very brisk, um, very concise film.
What is it you call it? Vignettes.
No, 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 no. This movie is not a vignette. It's a fucking two
Well,
hour
no,
movie.
Cersei's storyline would be a vignette within
Well,
the Spartan.
B plot is more accurate within the context of this movie. Honestly, I mean, just a sidetrack to Game of Thrones. I originally thought that Daenerys was a vignette storyline, but I actually believe it's Jon now. Imagine that.
Imagine, just come all the way around.
Full circle. But his is
Yeah.
bullshit. Doesn't deserve the word vignette. Um, but so here's the thing about Cersei's storyline, and not just Cersei, but like the Spartan storyline as well, right? Everything is very concise. You only need to see what you need to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this movie's 2 hours, and the source material
Less than.
is very minimal as well. That's
Mm-hmm.
why everything that happens with Lena Headey's character is original to this movie, because originally
Mm-hmm.
it's just that 300 battle, and it's just fucking like battle scene, violence, gore, blood, monsters. You know what I mean? But by fleshing out, the Sparta back at home, it's almost like that, like Man of Steel, sort of like you see what they're fighting for as they're fighting for it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
I feel like when it comes to the gold, it's just a very expedient way to keep it under 2 hours and show the discovery. I mean, we could have stretched that out in a longer format if we needed. If this were a show and you needed that time to pad out an episode, like you could
Mm-hmm.
show the searching of his room over the course of a montage. But I think this is a very expedient way of, because at the same time, it's not like it's illogical. I think that he wouldn't want his Persian gold just staying at home where someone could discover it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So to have it on him makes sense, and I don't think there was much. Honestly, if they didn't discover that he was a traitor, that would have positively happened to her. If not,
Mm-hmm.
resigned to house arrest until the king is discovered dead. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like, and especially with what he had done and what he was continuing to do to her,
Mm-hmm.
by gaslighting her in front of everyone,
Yeah.
was death. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Um.
it was a very Spartan response from her.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree that the idea that she kills him is uncharacter is not in her character. It's more so the idea that like it feels like her storyline, her conclusion, like this arc of trying to get Leonidas the help that he needs, it doesn't really resolve because at the end of the day, she's not the one that motivates the council. Whether that be due to sexism or whatever,
Okay,
is a whole other thing. But we're left with Lena Headey as her character. Like, yeah, she almost by happenstance discovers a traitor, and she also doesn't manage to motivate, which is the one thing that she like was her goal in the film.
but I would argue that by her having it's almost like parallel storytelling. The
Mm-hmm.
story of Leonidas and his queen, that she is, she has the same impossible task, right? In a society that has zero respect for her word, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To still do it is the same as Leonidas going up against, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. The setup is very good
right.
in terms of Lena
So,
Headey's like goal.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I feel like Leonidas sending, that's still and it keeps the Spartan way going, but it's also, like I said earlier, the thing that ends it, because it's like if you
Mm-hmm.
keep going, it ends. But like it's a Pandora's box. What do you do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I wish that I don't know. There's like Lena Headey's like it doesn't feel like there's a strong conclusion to that though. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, Yeah, like,
What do you mean?
um,
Yeah,
like
it's
her
the
storyline. What is her storyline? What is the question that is asked by her story, that is either answered is answered by the end of it? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, the question is seemingly, can she bring the reinforcements that Leonidas needs, right?
yeah, and the
Um,
answer is she
and the
can't.
answer is she can.
Right, and can Leonidas take down
Mm-hmm.
Xerxes? And the answer is he can't. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they both have answers, and that's
So then the end of her story, but the difference is that, like, Leonidas's story ends with, no, he can't, but his death can motivate the rest of the Spartan army. Whereas with her, she sacrifices everything. She sacrifices her body,
but I
sacrifices like that, like in those moments, like her humility, her pride, everything, and in the end, it doesn't matter.
and
It
that's
doesn't amount
I
to anything,
to bring it
right?
back to 30 minutes ago. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to me talking about how the ending battle is a subversion of them, marching to death and being the end of Sparta.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's mirrored in this way, and if you see failure within her, it's failure within him. So even if
Mm-hmm.
his goal was to that, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It is it's doom, it's failure. You know what I mean? Like this way of, and that's why the 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 endorsement criticism is not held by me,
Mm-hmm.
because at every aspect of this movie is condemnation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm not necessarily arguing the idea that, like, that it endorses
Oh
some
no
kind
no
of
no
treatment. Yeah,
no 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 no
yeah,
yeah no, but I'm just saying, like, it connects. I'm just connecting the dots.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I see that. My larger complaint is that it feels like her character doesn't service her own story at the end. Like, her story ends with the answer of, no, she cannot do the thing that she set out to do, and the end. Whereas with Leonidas, it was like, no, he himself cannot do the thing, but in his action, he will inspire the essentially the death of the rest of Sparta. But that answers that question. That leaves that character satisfied, even if that satisfy, even if the satisfying of that character's goal leads to a cycle of what is already transpired. Whereas Leonidas' character doesn't have that same like cycle. It just kind of,
But I
it's
feel
over.
no, but I feel like her cycle is what reinforces and exemplifies the doom of his, right. If
Mm-hmm.
you removed her, the movie is not as good. If you remove her storyline, it could seem like, oh, they will go on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like having that hope with like no contrast. You know what I mean? Like that failure within her, I feel like is connected to him as well. And you know what I mean?
So it's an idea of, like, her failure is in and of itself another way that Sparta
Sparta
has
has failed,
failed.
right?
Right,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, really point to me a success of Sparta in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll just find kill good, but not
Mm-hmm.
win. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's why the ending means what it means to me,
Mm-hmm.
is because you get to that ending, and you can't tell me that you watch 99% of a movie where all they do is kill, but they don't win. But now this is the win, you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
also you look around and like, okay, where is our Spartan leader? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's not.
That's interesting. I guess in terms of, like, a condemnation that, like, they couldn't overcome that aspect of their society. This idea that, like, they're not even like subliminal, just like their blatant sexism kind of like shoots them in their foot, right?
Blatant
Um,
sexism, racism, everything.
yeah. Now,
Homophobiaism, dead dadism.
um, speaking of racism, that's the next avenue by which I want to discuss this film, because this is the one that's like the most difficult in my eyes to justify. The simple truth is that the Persian army is made up of predominantly uh, people of color,
Mm.
and the Spartan army is not, right? Which, and considering that the Persian army is the one that is backed by demons, the one that is backed by deformity, by monsters, by monstrousness, by ugliness, and also in the form of their god king by seemingly like a femininity, in terms of like the way that he carries himself, the way that he acts. There seems to be this connection between like it's very blatantly spelling out Spartan racism, right? However, I don't know if I see where the criticism comes in. Where does the criticism of that come from in your eyes?
Well, in my eyes, again, it comes from um, two things when you watch the movie. When you watch the movie and you see that it is, the Spartans versus everything you just described, but it is the Spartans who fail, and it is, everything that they fail from comes from within. It just shows sort of like a backwards sort of like, thing, shooting itself in the foot, as you said. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also, when it comes to their depiction, I feel like that comes from the framing and the contextualization of the narration and the propaganda nature of the hype that is the movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think one way that could kind of fix a lot of this, because I think that the problem is when you say, well, they've sided with demons. Yes, they're siding with deformities, like the guy with like the weird like saw hand.
Yeah, but
like,
that's the thing is, I don't think any of that actually happened.
Right. No,
Okay,
that's the point I'm building to.
God, okay.
Like, if the idea is that like all of that is just bullshit because the Spartans are trying to paint them as vile as they possibly can. Right. If the true nature of them is that simply, like the immortals are simply just great warriors, they are not truly demons or something. Right. Like if that's the idea, right? Then my problem is that needs to be better spelled out. In like maybe in like the final moments, like something that could have been interesting is after the framing device has been completed, after we see Dilios like standing face to face with the Persian army, it would have been interesting if we could have seen the immortals for who they really were. If we could have seen the Persian army for who they really were, that would have been a really good way of depicting demonstrating that that this is not the way that it is. Because a big problem that I have is that like even if you tell me everything that you're seeing on the screen is just it's essentially just bullshit. It's just propaganda.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact that it's really effective propaganda. When you put, for instance, if you let's say you say that you have like a person of color and they are in like poverty, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's even if you say like this is like propaganda, the problem is that it still puts these two images together, and that needs to be recontextualized in order for it to truly to function as like a criticism of that. You know what I mean? Like that, like the simple fact that you have like these two like people of color alongside all of these like monsters and whatnot, that like that in and of itself without like a recontextualization can fall flat into an almost seeming endorsement, even if that's not the intention.
I would say that you definitely could spell out in your idea of an ending,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the what I say it still exists. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as with a lot of this movie, I feel like being that this is, and we'll get to the visuals later, being that this is a very visually told story, it's also very minimalist. And I talked about it with Lena Headey's character and Leonidas and the battles itself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is very minimalist, and I feel like that's why it is one of the few Snyder movies to be so short, under 2 hours, is its minimalist nature. And I feel like that is why it is the way it is. But I mean, we could always talk about like, if to make another one, the steps you would take. But I just, I feel like that's why it is the way it is.
Yeah, I just think I think that the fact that it is such a visual film, such a like an almost masterclass of visual storytelling, right? I think that is what could have made something like depicting the Persians as they truly were even more effective, because then no dialogue needs to be uttered from the Persians.
I mean,
on,
what
right?
you described is still
it's
still visual, but it's the minimalist that I'm capitalizing. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, sure.
It's the this movie is Because like you don't see the glimpses of Sparta that you do see, like we just saw Xerxes right there, was him screaming, right?
Yeah.
Did he scream, or is that just that's still just Dilios saying like, and he screamed with rage, you know what I mean? And he punished his generals, like. How much and like that's what it is.
That is true.
The narration never cuts. The framing never ends. The movie is an entirely framed.
Well, that's the thing though. That's the that's actually not true. The framing device does end at the end of the movie. So the framing device ends in this moment in which Dilios is telling in front of 10,000 men. That is when the framing device is over now.
Yes.
Now we are in presumably reality.
But yes.
Which is what a perfect situation to depict the Persian army as they truly are, instead of just dots in the background. I think that's why it's effective. Because Zack Snyder essentially gave himself all of the pieces that he needed to depict exactly what I'm talking about, basically. It's all there.
Yeah, it is all there. And I wouldn't be against such a director's cut or alternate ending. But
the Jesus cut.
The Jesus cut, right, yeah. Release the Jesus cut. But it would just release like a little animatic of normal stick figures.
Yeah, stick figures.
Non-monstrous looking stick figures.
Exactly. All.
But as it exists, this is still like a 5-star fucking masterclass. You know what I mean? Top 100 movies ever made. Like, fucking incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I think this movie does a lot of things really effectively. And then this is where we can move into
we could still talk. If you have anything more to go
over. Those were the main things that I wanted to go over. I wanted to get all of that out of the way so we could gush